Hello everyone, I'm Jack Staples. I just got back from YCS London where I went 6-3 playing Superheavy Samurai. I've had a lot of requests for a deck profile, so I've cobbled this together really quickly. Please forgive how scuffed this is probably going to come out. So let's jump in. We'll start, to start things off, we have, of course, 3 Superheavy Samurai Soul Piercer. That's shaking a lot. Okay. Soul Piercer, the heart and soul of the deck. The entire thing revolves around this card not having a once per turn on its search whenever it is sent to the graveyard. So we want to see that frequently. So we have playing 3 Wagon, which is Stratos-like in its ability to search a Super Heavy Samurai Soul card. Moving on from that, we have 3 copies of Super Heavy Samurai Scales. This is used as an extender in the combo, but it's also the best card to have on later turns once Soul Piercer is in the graveyard. Next we have these one-of searchable extenders that we can get off of Soul Piercer. That's Soul Peacemaker, Soul Horns, and Soul Claw. They have once per turns on them, so we just play 1 of each. We can recycle them. We have ways to get them back in the deck if we need to use them again on later turns. Next up we have some other search targets. 3 copies of Super Heavy Samurai Soulbreaker Armor, 1 copy of Transporter, and of course 1 copy of Super Heavy Samurai Big Ben K. These are here primarily as an FTK line. You need to have a pretty good hand to pull it off. You need to be going first. You need to be in a format that is trending away from Nibiru. It actually worked out quite well. In Nefarious, what's this actually called? It's Awakening of the Possessed Nefarious Archfiend. It's used to combo with Relinquished Anima. You can send a Spellcaster and an Earth monster to the graveyard in order to special summon it directly from the deck. It doesn't start a chain. You just pick up your deck in the middle of a game and your opponent goes, wait, hang on, I need to ash that. But it's not an effect. You can just summon it like as if your main deck was your extra deck. Yeah, when it's summoned, it special summons another Earth monster from the graveyard, so this is a great extender, get extra Soul Piercer searches. Next, we have Infinitrack Tunneler and Ancient Gear Box. These are our search targets from Ancient Gear Ballista. With Tunneler and Awakening of the Possessed, that gives us access to a rank 5 in Riverstormer. And Tunneler can also recycle our engine for later in the game and give us extra cards in hand. Gearbox is a pretty problematic garnet. If you draw it, I drew it in my feature match, game 1. You draw it, it cuts you off of Tunneler, which in turn cuts you off of the recycling and makes your grind game much harder. Next, speaking of Riverstormer, we have our targets for that in Regulus and Bullet Train. This Bullet Train was a second Regulus until literally the day of the event. I decided that if you drew Regulus, you then had nothing to search off of Riverstormer. Everything is searchable by Soul Piercer, and you get so many Soul Piercer searches, you're not going to Riverstormer for something that you could search another way. So yeah, Bullet Train came in as an extender for that situation. Regulus, of course, is you don't need to describe it. It's a negate, so it can if you draw it early, you can protect your combo with it, but you search it and it adds to your end board. But also equipping a spell. If you equip the Soul Piercer, that's an extra search once it leaves the field. Okay, so now we move on to the Vernasilf portion of the deck. I have here 2 copies of Flourishing Hills, 2 copies of Misting Seedlings, 1 copy of Thawing Mountains, and 1 Flowering Fields. The Flourishing Hills and Misting Seedlings basically represent 3 reborns on their own because 1 will search the other, which will search another. So that's effectively 3 more searches off of Soul Piercer. Thawing Mountains and Flowering Fields are just extra names. They're all once per turn, so you want to have as many different ones as possible filling your hand rather than duplicates. The last Vernasilf is Awakening Forest. We're playing 3 of this because it's a way of getting to Soul Piercer if you didn't open Soul Piercer or Wagon. You can send an Earth from your deck to the grave and then summon an Earth, but you can't summon one with the same name as the one you sent from the deck to grave. So ideally, you would discard Scales, send Soul Piercer from deck to grave, reborn the Scales, and then Scales will reborn the Soul Piercer that you sent from deck to grave. That gets you your full combo started without using your normal summon. One last Vernasilf adjacent card is Auser the Earth Channeler, playing 2 copies of that. when testing, I found a lot of times hands looked like lots of search targets and hand traps, but no starters. So this is the way to fix that. You can discard a machine and search a different Earth machine. So it will turn engine pieces into starters, and it will turn duplicate Vernaselfs into live Vernaselfs if you happen to draw probably more of this one. And bringing us up to 40, we just have 3 Ash Blossom. It's the most all-purpose trap. It's the one that's live the most often. And of course, we have 3 Gamma and the 1 Driver. Gamma is a great hand trap for going second, but pulls double duty in here if you happen to start your combo with a Vernaself or Elsa. If your opponent tries to hand trap that, because they're vulnerable to almost all of the hand traps, you can drop Gamma and really punish them there. So that's the main deck. Let's have a look at the extra. So in the extra, we have, of course, Superheavy Samurai Scarecrow, and we're playing 2 copies. This is what turns Soul Piercer into a 1-card combo. You can use Soul Piercer as the material for Scarecrow, putting it in the graveyard and triggering its effect. Scarecrow brings back the Soul Piercer from the graveyard to trigger it again later. And we've already mentioned Anima, Ancient Gear Ballista, and Infinitrack Riverstormer. They're made as part of the combo Searching More Material. Next we have some Link 2s. Cyframe Lord Lander. If we happen to have extra material, it's a good one to go for. Even if you don't have Gamma in hand, it might make your opponent play awkwardly to get around it. Nightmare Cerberus and Geonada Transversa. The Vernasilf cards force us to only use Earth effects for the rest of the turn. So some Earth monsters with powerful effects in the extra are useful. Next we have Nightmare Unicorn, an exception to that previous explanation. It's not Earth, but it's strong enough that we'll play it anyway. Moving up to Link 4, we have 2 copies of Sayuja Skulldread. The second copy never came up in the tournament this weekend, so I might swap that for something else. It's kind of a holdover from when I was more focused on the FTK and had a lot more extenders and fewer hand traps. We have Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess. Even if you're locked into Earth effects, you can still make this. It'll still gain the attack. You just won't be able to use the negates until the turn is over. So everything will be live on your opponent's turn. Of course, Access Code Talker. If we get lots of material on the board, we can try to end the game that way. And Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. Again, lots of material floating around. This might get us out of some difficult situations. And last but not least, we have a number 41 Baguska. I've been forced to rewatch my feature match over and over again, and there were definitely some times where I probably should have been more eager to go into this. So let's take a look at the side deck. Superheavy Samurai poses a bit of a unique challenge when side decking, because you can't play spells and traps if you want to get the full power out of all of these effects. So we're limited to using only monsters. So keeping that in mind, we have 2 Nibiru, 2 Droll, 2 Kaiju. I probably should have been playing an Earth Kaiju. There was a time that it came up where I had the Kaijus in hand and I was discarding for Vernasilfs, and I had to bring back a Vernasilf where bringing back a Kaiju would have been more powerful. We have 1 Dino Wrestler Pancratops. It being Earth means it can be brought back with a Vernasilf for some extra utility. These cards came in a lot. Oops, knocked my camera a lot there. These cards came in quite frequently. Whenever I would be going second, the FTK line would come out, so the armors, the transporters, and maybe Elsa as well. So yeah, this came in almost every game. It also had Artifact Lancia, another matchup-dependent one. Next, we have Archfiend Eccentric and Mythical Beast Garuda, 2 copies of each. This is where you see that not being able to play spells and traps concession coming in. This is spell and trap removal. Because they're pendulum monsters, they don't go to the graveyard. They also, if they did go to the graveyard, they would be monsters. It's a great way for when going second to clear problematic boards. We also have 2 copies of Saphion the Time Lord, mainly for Trap Trick. That won't work anymore. I think they just got a trap hold that works on this. So that'll have to be something else. Possibly more copies of these or some other spell trap removal. So that's the deck. Please leave your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear from you. This is kind of the last chance I'm going to have to play the deck in this current form. The new support comes out in almost exactly a month, and it's going to completely change the way Super Heavy Samurai is played to be much more combo focused. We're going to be playing synchros again. So you'll definitely hear more from me once all that is coming out. See you guys then. Bye.